to a re-recording of yesterday's Cambridge University Press ELT webinar. We had a few sound issues yesterday. Our presenter Kay Bentley and I are back. Kay has extensive experience of both teaching and training subject content in British and European primary young learner contexts. She's authored books, online courses, and written articles for journals on content and language integrated learning. Over to you, Kay.
Thank you, Alistair. Well, welcome to today's webinar, Content, Camera, Action. I'm delighted to be presenting the webinar, and I look forward to responding to the comments you make during it, and then answering your questions about the use of video at the end of it. First of all, why the title Content, Camera, Action? Well, content refers to the content of school subjects, which many young learners are now learning about in English. Subject topics are usually taken from science, geography, art, and history, but content includes other subjects too. As I'm sure you can guess, camera refers to video, and action refers not only to the action sign at the start of making a video, but also to interactive learning. The webinar is therefore about the use of video in the context of primary content and language learning. I'm going to start with an overview of the webinar. There are 3 questions I'm going to ask. They are: why use video in primary content lessons? Which videos can we use? And how can we use video in primary content lessons to encourage interactive learning? I'll then finish with a summary of what's been addressed during this webinar. So let's start with the first question. Why use video in primary content and language lessons? I'd like some ideas first, so please could you write one idea in the chat box. You don't have to write in a sentence, a phrase, or a word will do. Okay, motivating. It's an adjective coming up here. Children like them, I agree. It changes the pace of a lesson. Thank you. All right, so let's look at some ideas I have myself. I thought I'd make these ideas more memorable by writing them as an acrostic. V-I-D-E-O. V. Visual and subject literacy is developed through video. I. Video inspires critical and creative thinking. D. Video develops subject knowledge and cultural awareness. E. Video enhances learner motivation and confidence for them to understand new subject content. O. The outside world is linked to learning inside the classroom. Now let's examine each reason, and I'll show you a short clip from different content videos as an example of the points I'm making. So first of all, V for visual literacy. What is visual literacy? Well, visual literacy involves developing skills to read and interpret the meaning of subject-specific images. The here and now for subjects such as science, geography, and maths. The there and then for subjects such as history. But visual literacy also involves more than focusing on subject language. It involves understanding images, both moving and stills of the real world outside, understanding sound, words, text, sound effects from the real world. Many ELT videos have fictional characters and fictional places, but here it's the real world. Also, print and layout. Learners need to understand headings, labels, diagrams related to understanding, for example, life processes, chronological order, and bar charts. So let's now look at an example of a video clip from level 1 for children aged 6 to 7, and we can see how visual and subject literacy are developed. The subject is geography, and the question is, what continent is it? Alistair, can you play the video, please?
It's Antarctica. All kinds of people visit and work in Antarctica. People don't live here. Penguins do.
This video clip helps learners to read moving images such as the revolving globe, which is part of learning about maps in geography. Also, learners interpret images from Antarctica, which show people visiting and working in this continent, but not living there. By looking at the frozen landscape, children can see animals such as penguins that can live there. What's important is that learners can work out that penguin is the name of the birds from the video clip. Learners don't read any text at this beginner level, only the name of the continent, Antarctica, which emerges at the start of the video clip and reduces at the end. Learners therefore read video images as they listen to the script and so develop visual literacy. I. Inspire. Video images inspire the development of learners' critical thinking. But in order to help them develop critical thinking skills, teachers need to ask questions so learners can compare and contrast and analyze what they see and hear on the video. Teachers also need to help learners to interpret the meaning of subject-related images, for example, by linking new concepts to those they know. And teachers, even at beginner levels, can encourage learners to look and evaluate the presentation of subject-specific content. So we'll now look at a clip from a Level 2 video for learners aged 7 to 8. While you watch, think of some questions you could ask learners to develop their critical thinking skills. Alistair, could we have the second video, please? Where are the places?
Sports Centre. These are sports centres. This sports centre is round. This sports centre is round too. Look at this sports centre. It's red and yellow. Look how we find the sports centre on the map. It's in square D5.
Questions for comparing and contrasting sports centres could be, are the sports centres big or small? Are they old or new? Questions for analysing what learners saw in the video could be, what is different about the sports centres? What is the same? If you refer to the sports centres as A, B and C, responses could be, A has got a lot of cars in front of it, C has got a lot of windows. To help learners interpret the meaning of images by linking them to words they already know, you can ask, what can we do in a sports centre? And to encourage learners to look and evaluate what they see on the video, you could ask, for example, does the video help you to say the places? To answer a question like this, learners may use some L1, first language. If so, accept what they say and translate. If learners answer with a no, show the clip again, pause the video when each place appears on the map grid, and elicit what the words do to help them read them. In other words, the words move. Now I'd like you to look at this quote. As a result of viewing film, there is evidence of children developing a critical eye and becoming more discriminating and responsive readers of print text. This quote provides proof that when teachers help learners to develop as critical thinkers while watching video, they are more able to respond critically to written text and content lessons. In my experience, this applies to films with subject content for non-native children too. Video images also inspire learners' creative thinking processes when teachers ask possibility questions that develop curiosity. For example, can you find a place near our school? Where can we see a map of our town? At higher primary levels, learners can use could and might. What might you see in a city in China? Also, teachers can encourage learners to ask their own questions. For example, by helping them to do this, you can use question starters for their ideas. And here we have what is this place? Where is it? Who goes to a sports centre? And in the third point, learners can help creative thinking. Teachers can help creative thinking when learners make links between images they've seen on the video. For example, the hospital and the police station are very big. The school and the sports centre have got car parks. So by questioning learners to make them curious, getting learners to ask their own questions, and by encouraging learners to make links, we provide strategies that help them to develop into creative thinkers in English. D. D develops subject knowledge and cultural awareness. Developing a focus on culture is highly relevant in content and language learning, and you can see examples of developing and integrating subject content and cultural awareness in this table. In art, types of art from around the world are shown, from museums and elsewhere in the street. Geography, types of places in the video come from different continents. History, types of old buildings such as castles are seen in different parts of the world. In music, a wide range of types of music and instruments played around the world are shown in the videos. For physical education or sport, there are lots of sports and games played in different countries. And in science, types of food grown and eaten in different climates. E. Video enhances. It enhances motivation and confidence. How does it do this? Well, video provides a rich stimulus to immerse learners in subject-specific topics. Video supports explanations and also descriptions of subject concepts through age-appropriate and meaningful images. Video builds on learners' previous knowledge of subject content, and video presents content at a pace suitable for non-native English speakers. Teachers tell me they spend a considerable amount of time trying to locate video or YouTube clips about subject content suitable for primary non-native speakers of English. When teachers do find these video clips with suitable content, they often discover that the clips contain too much language, are presented too quickly, or that the content is not designed for the age of the learners they're teaching. This is because most YouTube video clips for teaching primary subject content are aimed at native speaker young learners. Content videos with motivating, supportive, relevant footage and stills, delivered clearly at a suitable speed, are therefore much needed. Let's now watch a Level 5 geography video clip aimed at learners aged between 10 and 11, called What Happens When a Volcano Erupts. Think about how well the video presents new subject content in English for older primary learners. Alistair, could we have the third video clip, please?
Today, we're asking, what happens when a volcano erupts? First, let's look at some volcanoes from around the world. This volcano is in Iceland. Can you see the crater in it? This volcano is in Japan. It has a lot of snow on the top of it. Look at this volcano in Ecuador. It's erupting. And this volcano in Italy is also erupting. Can you see the hot red lava?
I hope you agree that this video clip, firstly, provides rich stimulus through the use of dynamic images of active volcanoes from around the world. These images are therefore likely to motivate learners to listen, look, and learn about new subject content in English. Secondly, the video footage supports the explanation of what happens when a volcano erupts. This positive video experience is likely to make learners feel confident about understanding new words such as crater, lava, rock, erupting, and flowing. In addition, new subject vocabulary is repeated even in this short clip. Thirdly, the video clip builds on learners' previous knowledge by revisiting familiar vocabulary in context, such as snow, plants, hot, red, and glow. The video script can therefore be described as learner-friendly. And finally, to motivate and help learners feel confident, the geography content is presented clearly at a suitable speed for 10 to 11-year-old learners. Our last letter of video is O, the outside world linked to classroom learning. Here are some examples from subjects across the curriculum. So in art, the video shows patterns seen in the natural world, and teachers can relate this to patterns seen on children's clothes in the classroom. In geography, in videos you can see extreme weather conditions on the video. In the classroom, children can perhaps record local weather conditions over a week from the classroom windows. In history, the video shows features of castle homes from the past. In the classroom, children may find out about features in their school or an old school in the area 100 years ago. In science, they learn about ant families working together. In the classroom, children can talk about how they help one another with their families. And in maths, the video shows 3D shapes in the local environment. The teacher can also look at 3D shapes around them in the classroom or in the wider school. So each subject concept seen on the video encourages learners also to look more closely at their environment outside and to understand why they are learning about such concepts in the content and language classroom. Here we have a second quote. The more links we make to the children's real world, the more effective our teaching. For reluctant readers and writers, linking to topics they can find motivating can make a real difference. I think this is true not just for content and language learning, but for all learning. Now for our next video clip. It's a level 4 video for learners aged 9 to 10. What can you see in it that links learning about 3D shapes in the classroom to the outside world? Alistair, please could you play the 4th video clip?
Sphere. This ball is a 3D shape. It's a sphere. These children are playing in a sphere. Look at this sculpture. It's a very big sphere. And this big sculpture is also a sphere.
Yes, the 3D shapes are not limited to footballs or marbles taken into the classroom. By looking at the video, shapes can be seen in city parks, in play parks, and in street sculpture. Children learn that their outdoor experiences relate to what they've been taught in the content and language lessons. Learning then becomes meaningful. Now let's turn to our second question. Which videos can be used in content lessons? In order to answer this, we'll look at examples of 3 more video clips. The first from level 1, how do animals move? The second from level 3, which plant parts can we eat? And the third video from level 5, what is an underwater food chain? Your second question is, which reasons for using the video are evident? I'd like you to think about the reasons for using video that we've discussed in the first part of this webinar. So I'll give you time to read the 5 reasons again. And as you watch the video clip from level 1, aimed at 6 to 7-year-olds at the end of their first year of content and language learning, decide which of the reasons for using video are evident in the video clip. Choose from the 5 items A to E and put a tick. Alistair, please could you play the 5th video clip, How Do Animals Move?
Today, we're asking, how do animals move? Let's find out. Fly. Birds fly. Birds have got wings. Some birds have got long wings. Some birds have got short wings.
These comments, yes, many of you have written all 5 letters. Now compare the reasons you ticked with these in the following table. V. In the first row, we can see that visual and subject literacy are developed through images that support understanding of the science concept, fly and wings. In addition, the concepts of long and short are seen through the contrast between footage of birds with short or long wings. Subject literacy is developed by listening to basic explanations of how animals move and by reading the subject question and the 3 subject-specific verbs written on the screen at the start of the video. The key verbs appear again on the screen as they're presented. This means learners develop listening and reading skills in a highly supportive context. In the second row, we can see that the images can inspire both critical and creative thinking skills when teachers ask questions such as, can animals with wings run? And to develop creative thinking skills, ask learners to tell you animals that can fly and walk. Ask if any animals can slither and fly. D. In the third row, we can see that the diversity of images develops subject knowledge as learners see familiar birds such as parrots, but also less familiar birds such as flamingos. Later in the video, learners see other animals such as mammals and reptiles. E. In the fourth row, we can see that as a result of the careful selection of images, learners' motivation to watch the video is enhanced. Also, the carefully scripted language that learners listen to gives them confidence to produce new language after the video. And finally, O. Of course, with this topic, learners watch animals moving in a range of outdoor habitats rather than looking at animals in pictures or cartoon drawings in a book. Next, I'll play a video clip from Level 3 for learners aged between 8 and 9. As you watch, think of a difference between the Level 1 video clip, How Do Animals Move, and this Level 3 video clip you're about to watch, What Parts of Plants Can We Eat? Alistair, please can you play our next video clip, What Parts of Plants Can We Eat?
Today, we're asking, what parts of plants can we eat? Let's find out. Seeds. These are peas. And this is corn. When we eat peas or corn, we're eating the seeds of the plants.
In the chat box, one difference between the Level 1 video clip and the Level 3 video clip. More vocabulary, more pictures. Yes, I agree with the differences that you're writing now. Thank you. All right, let's look at some key differences in the following table. The differences between the two video clips were planned so that learners develop both subject knowledge and their language skills. As you can see from the first row in the table, in the Level 1 video, learners see birds in different habitats, while in Level 3, learners not only see plant parts that can be eaten, but they see the plant parts growing and being prepared. This process is very important because some children assume all food comes directly from supermarkets and appears in a state ready to cook without any preparation. In the second row, you can see that in Level 1, there's less subject-specific vocabulary, 3 items here. And whereas in Level 3, there are 5. In Level 1, only the present simple tense is used in the forms of some verbs, whereas in Level 3, there's a use of the present continuous form, the verb to eat. Also in Level 3, the sentences are longer and have more than one clause. In the third row, as you would expect, the Level 1 video script is shorter and delivered more slowly than the Level 3 video script. Next, I'd like you to think about a possible difference between the Level 3 primary video about what parts of plants can we eat that you've just seen, and a Level 5 content video. So think of a difference that there could be between the Level 3 and Level 5. And please could you write one difference in the chat box. Yes, some of you are predicting there may be more complex grammar, again a wider range of vocabulary, longer sentences, and spoken more quickly. Thank you. Now let's watch a video from Level 5 to see if you predicted any of the differences. Alistair, please can you play our last video clip, What is an Underwater Food Chain?
Today, we're asking, what is an underwater food chain? First, let's look at the different parts of an underwater food chain. A food chain shows how different things eat each other. The food chain for a sea lion looks like this. sea plant, fish, sea lion. All food chains start with sunlight. Sunlight helps plants to make food. The next part of a food chain is when small animals, like this fish, eat the plants. And the last part of a food chain is when bigger animals, like this sea lion, eat the small animals.
Let's now look at some key differences and compare them with what you thought. So differences between videos level 3 and level 5. In the first row, we can see that the level 3 content video presents familiar everyday content related to the here and now of a child's world, while the level 5 video presents more challenging subject matter. A science topic such as an underwater food chain is not a concept that learners see in their everyday lives, so it requires deeper understanding as the concept is more abstract. Supportive visuals are therefore essential to aid understanding of the concept. In the second row, we can see that level 3 vocabulary is suitable for learners who have completed the starter level and who can understand subject-specific nouns such as root, stem, leaf, fruit, and seed. In level 5, the more advanced science content demands higher level language. This level is working towards movers. New subject-specific vocabulary, such as producer and consumer, is academic, and grammatically, sentences are more complex. Later in the video, when a forest food chain is presented, relative clauses and adverbial clauses need to be understood. In the third row, we can see that the level 3 video presents a basic explanation of edible plant parts with examples. In the level 5 video, there's an explanation of an underwater food chain with a diagram to show the stages in the process. Again, supportive visuals are essential to aid understanding of this science concept. What is also different about the level 5 video is that in addition to the clip you saw, there are 2 further parts to it. In the second part, there's a more detailed explanation of an underwater food chain with stills of primary and secondary consumers. And in the third part, the concept of a food chain is extended to show learners a forest food chain. This provides an opportunity to revisit key subject vocabulary in a motivating and meaningful context. I'll now turn to our last question. How can we use video in content and language lessons to encourage interactive learning? I'm sure you have many ideas. So first, can you answer the last question? Type an idea into the chat box, please. Yes, encouraging pair work. Yes, giving them children time to ask questions. All right, thank you. So how do we use video to encourage interactive learning? I'll now suggest ideas. Some of them may be new to you, and some you've maybe tried already. First of all, before the lesson, how can we use video and content lessons for interactive learning? The examples here are from different subjects. In science, for example, the video that you saw about how do animals move, you can ask children to predict what animals they may see. They could say words like birds, fish, and elephants, because these are words they may have encountered earlier in the year. They can then mime their movements. For sport in level 2, the question, what equipment do we need? Again, learners will probably predict words like ball, football, basketball. In art, what can you see in a landscape painting? At level 3, learners may say flowers, trees, water, a town. If they do say some words in their first language, don't translate. This time you could say, well, let's find out when we play the video. And in the geography one, what's the weather like around the world for level 5? Children will possibly say very cold, snowy, hot and dry, rainy, windy. So asking learners to predict what they're going to see is a good way to consolidate vocabulary. It's important first that you note down words learners might say in response to the questions you ask, so that you know that they can provide vocabulary. If they can't remember, then you can elicit it. Encouraging interactive learning during the video, you can pause the video. Here are some ideas for that. In the maths video about shapes, you can pause it and ask learners to draw a shape from the video in the air. Ask, is it a circle? Is it a square? Then you could ask them to predict another shape that they might see. Again, they might use some first language. Don't translate, but ask them if they'll see it next. In a music video, concept check the groups of instruments by pausing the video and asking what kind of instrument is a guitar. Then ask learners to mime playing a guitar. Also ask what type of instruments they think will appear next. At level 5, in geography, pause the video to concept check by asking, what places did you see in New York Central Park? Which place is in the southeast of the park? Then get learners to predict what other places they could see in the video. Although these ideas help to consolidate what learners have seen and also develop predicting skills, it's important to avoid pausing the video if it's going to frustrate learners who are absorbed in watching new subject content. Sometimes there's nothing worse for children than pausing too often. In this case, only pause to check understanding of new concepts on a second showing of the video. And finally, how can we use video in content lessons for interactive learning after the video? To involve learners in interactive learning for levels 1 and 2, you could ask them with a partner to tell each other 3 things the presenter says, or tell a partner what they like in the video. Or you could ask them to draw other animals that can fly, walk, or slither. Even at early stages, give learners an opportunity to give their opinions and give them a choice about what they draw. For levels 3 and 4, in small groups, learners can brainstorm words in the video. They could decide what part of the video they'd like to see again. They could draw and label 3 parts of plants we can eat. At these levels, when learners decide together which video clip they would like repeated, this gives them ownership of their learning, as well as promoting interactive learning. Giving learners choice differentiates learners because more able learners usually choose exotic or more complicated plants to draw and label, while less able learners tend to draw familiar plants. For levels 5 and 6, again, small groups of learners can decide where the camera was during the filming of the volcanoes. Was it at the top of the volcano, the side, at the bottom? They can decide which images they would use in the video about volcanoes. Or you could ask them to make a storyboard for their own volcano video. Creating a storyboard involves learners in planning. It's a series of boxes where children can draw the process and also write speech or think bubbles about what's happening. So it's a creative way of producing language. It's also used for planning any video that they might want to make themselves. So at each level, it's useful to allow thinking time after the video has finished so that learners can process what they saw. Allowing thinking time can produce more effective learner communication during the active learning stage. I'd like to conclude content, camera, action, video and webinar by summing up the main points. We asked, first of all, why use video in primary content lessons? And the reasons were that the learners' visual and subject literacy is developed, that the images inspire critical and creative thinking skills that teachers can develop after the video. Video develops subject knowledge and cultural awareness. And video enhances learner motivation and confidence. And lastly, the outside world is linked to classroom learning. Our second question was, which videos can we use? We should use videos that present dynamic visuals to support content learning, that are meaningful and understandable for content and language, and videos that are clearly spoken, delivered at a suitable pace. Our final question was, how can we use video in primary content lessons to encourage interactive learning? So before, we talked about activating learners' prior subject knowledge, getting them to predict what could be in the video. During, to pause to concept check and predict what could come next. But again, it's important not to pause a video too often. After the video, to allow thinking time before learners interact with the content. Thank you very much for taking time to join this webinar and to participate during it. We appreciate all your responses. The videos used in the webinar come from our new primary course, Guess What? I hope the webinar gave you some inspiration and confidence to use video in young learner lessons. And we also hope you all want to find out more about Guess What? Please could you therefore complete the final poll. And now is the time for further questions. Please can you write them in the chat box.
Now we'll take a look at some of the best questions that came in during yesterday's webinar. The first of these is, would these videos be suitable for use at secondary?
Yes, I definitely think that by level 6, the videos could be used in secondary. The concepts that are addressed are suitable for lower secondary learners. They are more abstract, but they're also involve some more science. For example, how do fireworks work? How are the planets different? So as long as the subject concept is appropriate for the learners, they can be used in secondary.
Great, thanks. You talked about storyboarding as an activity, and do you think that could be used as a homework activity with learners?
If learners have done storyboards in English classes, or they've done them before in content classes, yes, they can be used for homework. I wouldn't suggest it should be done as a first-time exercise, because teachers need to support the planning of these and to make sure that learners understand that the story is logical and that it tells a process, and the teacher will have to support the language that the children are going to put into the storyboard. But yes, they could be used for homework if it's not a new task.
So it just needs preparation, essentially.
Yes.
Great, thanks. I had a question about how these levels 1 to 5 line up with CFR levels.
The level 1 starts from a complete beginner. So levels 1, 2, and 3 are moving through starters level, and by the top of level 3 into level 4, 5, we're looking at movers level, and then by the time the final level of guess what, 6, that's sort of top of movers into flyers, A2 level.
Great, thanks. Now, we've had a lot of conversation on our Cambridge Conversations blog recently about using learners' world knowledge to give them ownership of their learning. How does that tie in with what you've been suggesting here?
Well, content and language learning, or CLIL, many programs recognize now there is a place for the use of some first language by the children, and bringing their own content knowledge or world knowledge into the classroom can be frustrating for children if they know the concept in their first language and they want to try and talk about it in a new or in English. So in my experience, it's okay for the child to say some language about the world or knowledge they know in their first language, and the teacher can translate. But it's only at a certain point, perhaps at the beginning of the lesson. So the teacher will stay in English, but the child can use some of their first language because they know many ideas from the outside world already. It's also very rich in multilingual classes. Very few teachers now have a class of monolingual learners. So to encourage children from other countries to give a voice to their experience of the outside world makes them feel confident and worthwhile.
Okay, thanks. And we'll just finish off with a question about your own experience of using video in the classroom. So we've had a number of webinars and blog posts about videos suggesting that it can really engage learners and actually get them quite excited about learning. How does your own experience of using video tie in with that?
Yes, I definitely agree with that. My own experience has been with upper primary in the Netherlands, and when I was teaching children there, I was working with Cambridge English for Schools, and they really loved the videos that accompanied that course. I think for some, books themselves are absolutely suitable. For some children, they do like that visual input to help the book be more meaningful. But also, I've observed many classes in Spain and elsewhere in Europe, and when teachers do use video clips or YouTube, the children come alive. It's a change of pace. It's visual, as I say, visual literacy is developed, and yes, it's very good.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Now, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for. But don't forget that we'll be back next week with 2 webinars. On Monday, Craig Thane joins us for a session on writing skills and real-world written genre. Then on Tuesday, Jeanne McCartan and Helen Sanderford will be discussing how to make the most of blended learning. You can sign up for both of those by visiting our events page, cambridge.org/ELT events. Or the bit.ly link you can see here, bit.ly/Cambridge webinars. So thank you very much, everyone, for attending. Thank you to everyone who's watched this re-recording, and thank you particularly, Kay, for giving up your time to re-record this session and for giving up your time initially for the first session. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alistair, and thank you to all attending.